Welcome to the Brac Shop, the portal to the strange and mysterious. Now, I've just been to one of the most haunted houses in the country, and the National Trust actually says it's one of the finest examples of power and fashion in the 17th century. So stay tuned. So welcome back to the Brac Shop, and I'm going to tell you about Ham House, located down in Surrey, just down from Richmond, which is just about an hour away from London. And in the olden days, you actually just used to go down the river to Ham House. Quite a good location because you could get there from Westminster and Hampton Court by the river. And this episode is for Fairy. This is one of the requests I've had, and Fairy requested that I do Ham House. So this episode is for you. So thanks for requesting it. And if you and everyone else like this episode, please press the like button. That's to say that you've liked it. And also subscribe if you haven't subscribed as yet, and press the bell so you get notified every time I do release a new video. So Ham House. It's one of the haunted houses in the country. Apparently there's about 16 different ghosts in Ham House. Now, Ham House originally started back in 1610, built on Crown land in 26. The lease got transferred to William Murray. Now, William Murray, he grew up with King Charles I, and he was actually the son of a parson, but his uncle was the tutor, so they grew up together. He was offered the lease to Ham House, so he moved in and took over the house. And his eldest was Elizabeth Murray, born in 1626, the same year they moved into the house. And this is where our story starts. And through the main entrance into the main reception hall, and all decorated for Christmas. And then through to the grand staircase, and up the stairs to the gallery. They even took the upstairs dining room out and made it into a gallery where you could actually look down at the arriving guests. The idea was to give the entrance more light, but it was also a way of being able to look down to see who your guests were that was arriving, and also to establish whose place you had arrived at. William Murray, he was friends to the king, and so a royalist, and so supported him during the Civil War. And to protect the house, he actually gave the house to his wife and 4 daughters. And then he fled to France. Came back a few times, but never actually set foot back in the house again. Now, through the years, he passed on. His wife passed on, and the house was passed down to Elizabeth Murray. She married Sir Lionel Tollemache. Now, she was a very beautiful woman, as you can see in the painting here. She was friends with King Charles I, and she also became friends with Oliver Cromwell. Very strategic move, because she was actually able to save her house from being confiscated by the parliamentarians. So when Charles II was restored to the throne, she was actually awarded a pension of £800 a year. And that was quite a lot of money back in those days. Now, Sir Lionel Tollemache passed away, apparently from being ill, and he actually went to Paris to try and get better. But he passed away, and within 2 weeks of his passing, she married John Maitland, who became the Duke of Lauderdale. And they continued the prestige lifestyle in Ham House. They had parties, and all the notable people at the time would come and visit them at Ham House. Now, John Maitland, he grew ill in his older age, and he actually passed away in 1682. Elizabeth Murray, she developed gout and ended up staying in her room, which was located on the ground floor. She was suffering from gout and stayed in her apartment for about 16 years. Originally, this room actually used to be the nursery. The apartments were on the other side of the building. And this is the room she passed away in. People in this room have said that they felt uneasy. And apparently with the painting, if you walk by, you can see her eyes follow you. Now, I didn't have that problem. She followed me anyway, whether I suspected it or not. And the mirror here, apparently a few people are scared to look in the mirror for fear of what they may see there. This is actually a replica of the mirror. But this is the room and this is the bed where Elizabeth Murray passed away. And when she passed away, she actually said she will never leave this house. And it probably is still true to today. Now, in this room, people have said they've felt uneasy and uncanny. And people have said that some animals, like a few animals, have found it really strange and would not come into this room. In fact, Ham House do not allow any animals inside, unless of course it's a service dog. But people have spotted a King Charles Spaniel walking around. In fact, what I've been told by the tour guide, that and in fact one of the tourist visitors actually complained that they had let an animal in. But apparently it was an apparition of the dog that was actually found buried in the gardens behind the house. Now, they've also noticed fragrance of a rose perfume in the air, which is a bit strange because they don't have any of that in the house. But that's the perfume that Elizabeth Murray used to wear, and people can sometimes smell it around the building. When John Maitland passed away, his body was laid in state in this chapel here. And this is where Elizabeth Murray would actually come and kneel in and pay homage. And it was for about 3 days that she did that. And there is apparently a strong sense of the paranormal in the chapel. And some people have actually seen an apparition of her kneeling down in the chapel as well. Along the grand staircase. Imagine her walking down the staircase. In fact, some people have actually seen the apparition of her walking down the staircase. And it would have been used quite a lot by her back in the day. And this is where a lot of people have said there's a lot of activity going on around this whole stairwell. And I was actually told about this story where one of the husbands of the guides actually came in to have a look at the house, and he didn't know anything about the staircase. And he sort of like said, all right, if there's something here, let it happen. And then he had an app on his phone that turned on and it said, can't talk now. What a coincidence. What do you think? And as well as the fragrance of rose scent in the air, sometimes there's the scent of tobacco in the air. Apparently John Maitland would smoke his tobacco in the house, as was the custom there. And sometimes today, people walking through the house can actually still smell it. So where did that come from? So most of the stories in this house is of Elizabeth Murray, who through the years rose up in social stature. And you can see this picture here where her and John Maitland are sitting quite comfortable because the painting was a representation. They'd made it, so to speak. Of course, it wasn't sort of the way in later years, because John Maitland passed away, leaving quite a bit of debt, and she had to sort of clear the debt in her later years, and sort of lost their footing in their financial status, unfortunately. And as well as those ghostly inhabitants, there's also the story of John McFarlane, who is sometimes seen wandering on the South Terrace. Now, he was in love with one of the maids, and unfortunately refused to marry him. And as the story goes, he committed suicide by jumping out of the window. And he's supposed to have inscribed his name in the window there with the diamond ring. And coming up to Christmas, every Christmas, the last Earl would always give his chauffeur a Christmas present. He was partially blind and would use a stick to walk. And every Christmas Eve he would walk to the chauffeur's quarters to give the Christmas present. However, in 1935 he passed away. But every Christmas Eve they can still hear the footsteps and the cane coming towards the door. But there is no one there. Some of the ghosts of Ham House. Tell me what you think. Do you think these are made-up stories, or what? I didn't see anything when I went to visit. No pictures of orbs or anything. Maybe a bit of dust on my camera, but nothing unusual. Maybe it was too crowded, and I do believe that these things don't happen when there's a lot of people around or a lot of different energies or vibrations. Tell me what you think down below and let me know. And Fairy, I hope you've liked this episode, and anyone else watching, if you've liked this episode, press the like button. And as I've said before, if you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe and click the alarm bell. And you'll be notified every time I do bring another video out. So until next time, thanks for watching, and I'll bring you more interesting stories through the Brac Shop.